Good afternoon, guys, and welcome to episode 5 of the Flipping Fit Mama, Balancing Family, Business, and Success. I am super excited to be back here with you guys. Had to take a little bit of a hiatus, so I've created a schedule and I've tried my best to adhere to it where we will meet every week, once a week. However, the last couple weeks have just been super chaotic, but I am back and I'm actually going to talk to you guys about um, one of the topics that's really near and dear to my heart, and so it is part of real estate investing. So today we're going to talk about the quote secrets of finding off-market real estate deals. Um, so a lot of you are already privy to know that real estate is a huge passion of mine. It is half of what I do in terms of business. It's something that is in my blood, in my bloodline. It's something that comes very easy to me. It's a familiar thing, and it's just something that I really love to do. And it's not any specific avenue in real estate. It's just I would say just real estate in general. Excuse me. A lot of my history actually comes from more so the uh, creative pathway. As I mentioned in a previous video, my grandparents, well, my grandmother was involved in real estate. My parents were involved in real estate. I started in real estate at an early age and actually started my real estate business in 2009. So one of the or I don't want to call it a task, one of the actual strategies that a lot of people are utilizing now, probably more so people that are getting into real estate, newbies, as well as a lot of, experienced and tenured investors, would be wholesaling. And just to give a quick breakdown on exactly what that is if you don't know what it is. So wholesaling essentially is where you are, I don't really like the word middleman, but you have a contract to purchase a property. It can be residential, it can be commercial, and essentially you are flipping that paper. So you're selling the your position in that contract. And so instead of actually going through and purchasing it and holding it or flipping it or whatever it is that you do, it's a short-term transaction, and it's done typically via one of two ways. It's either an assignment of contract or a double close. That specific strategy, wholesaling, has allowed a lot of people to be able to enter the real estate investing arena without having the capital that it typically takes to purchase um, real estate. And so, with that being said, going back to what I mentioned in, I think it was the first video. So, my first wholesale deal was done in 2000. It was late 2009 when we started. I think it was 2010 when we finished it. Fast forward, we've done several deals in several states. So we have experience on both the residential as well as the commercial side. But yeah, that pretty much describes that. So going directly into finding off-market deals. So as a wholesaler or an investor who wholesales, the key is to find off-market deals. Your deals don't necessarily have to be off-market, but usually you're able to create a better overall transaction with the off-market deals. When you have deals that are on the market, usually the way to make those work would be to get a substantially discounted acquisition price. So to give an example, let's say there's a property on the market for $150,000. And you're like, oh, I can get this, and I have buyers lined up, and this will be an opportunity for me to wholesale. Usually, in order for those types of situations to work, you would have to acquire that property again at a substantial discount. So let's say let's say $75,000. Because the key here is, with it being on market, it's on the World Wide Web. It's accessible to anyone that wants to hop online, throw in that zip code or throw in that city. And so there's nothing that essentially puts you in place to secure that property when it's available to everyone else. So again, for that to typically work, you would have to a get an accepted offer that is significantly lower than that price that's on the market for the rest of the world. So that's why usually it's better to get off-market properties. So by off-market, what I mean specifically is a property that is not listed for sale on the multiple listing system or the MLS. So that would entail your, what is it called? Your, oh gosh, it's on the tip of my tongue. Your realtor.com, your all of the online sites where, because they feed into one another. So all of those sites, usually if something is on the market, you'll be able to do like just throw in the address, and if it comes up, it's listed with a realtor. Again, listed means it's the owner or the seller has secured a contract with a licensed agent, who is thus advertising on the internet to sell the property. You won't always, like I said, usually, I don't know why this site is escaping my mind right now. I can't even think of what it is. It's one of the larger ones, and I just have just brain fog. But anyway, those would be your listed properties. Many times you see signs in yards. Typically that is one of the things that is done first, but doesn't always have to happen. Just because a property is listed does not mean that there's always going to be a sign in the yard. But getting back on track, those are listed properties. So your off market would be your unlisted properties. These would be properties that maybe they haven't got to the point where they've hired or went into contract with a real estate agent or broker. Maybe they have one that's recently, contract that's recently expired. Maybe they want to do a for sale by owner. For sale by owner is considered off market. However, the owner does have the capability of putting those properties on some of those sites. So it's good to be able to kind of scroll through the details and be able to differentiate whether this is listed with a broker or a real estate agent, or whether it is for sale by owner. So that kind of gives you, a heads up, gives you some info in regards to why it's easier and probably more attainable to work with, the off-market properties. So there are several ways to find off-market properties, and I'll go over a few. One is networking. I know a lot of people, I feel like right now you probably are familiar, a lot of investors and or wholesalers, which can be, interchangeably used, but isn't always the same, because you may have some investors that are wholesalers, and you may have some wholesalers that are investors, but it doesn't always work out that way. You may have some wholesalers that are not, or don't consider themselves as investors, and so they can be used interchangeably, but not always. So one of the key things to do in terms of finding off market, again, is networking. So what I've seen with a lot of, I don't know if they're just, I feel like there's been an influx of people that have come into the real estate wholesale arena. And so 9 times out of 10, you probably, if you own a property, you probably have received a call, you probably have received a text message, you probably have even received a letter or an email. And so this is what we call a direct well, it's not necessarily direct mail. If it's mail, it's a direct mail, but it's a direct approach where wholesalers slash investors are reaching out to property owners to see if there's any interest in selling. Um, and it can have some success because in this stage, a lot of times, if there are any life-changing events, let's say somebody is getting ready to go through um, a foreclosure, or someone recently passed and probate is in their near future or in the near future of the family, a lot of times people are able to, these investors and wholesalers are able to catch people prior to them entering those situations, and ultimately prior to them um, listing their properties with an agent or a broker. So um, that is one huge thing that, like I said, a lot of people in the wholesale realm are doing right now. I've also seen um, it's kind of coming back a little bit. Bandit signs, and they are called bandit signs for a reason. um, they've been viewed as a risky task in terms of just putting signs out on the sides of the roads. Different county and city ordinances a lot of times don't permit or allow them. So I've been in conversation with people before, and they're trying to figure out, do I put my phone number on there? Do I put um, what do they call it? A burner phone number on there, because they don't want some of the potentially heavy fines associated with putting those signs out. Other people, view it as the risk is worth it. And so they will put the signs out. And I have personally seen those signs become more and more popular recently. We used to do them many years ago. Haven't done them in a long time, but they can be effective as well. Um, Word of mouth is a really good thing. I know personally, there was a period when I did a lot of riding in ride shares. And so when you are, you're conversing with a person that is driving, several areas of different towns and different, areas that you may or may not traditionally travel, those are good opportunities. Your Uber, your delivery drivers, even your mail couriers, so your USPS, your FedEx, your UPS, Amazon. I don't know if that they seem to be, they have a different not schedule, but a kind of a different path, I feel like, than everybody else. But you get the idea. So those types of people, they're able to help you locate, properties that may be good to approach, And when I say good to approach, typically houses, a lot of times you'll see visible signs that can kind of tell a story. You may see belongings that have been put outside if there's been a recent eviction. Sometimes people, will approach the owner or the landlord in those situations. You may see a lawn that has been unmaintained and has high weeds and grass, which could be an indicator that that property is vacant. You may see blinds that are either gone. You may see notices in windows and or on doors. So when you have, a relationship that you're working with one of these, I don't want to call them all delivery drivers. I guess most of them are, but these other individuals that are constantly riding through different neighborhoods and, covering more territory than you probably typically do. And if you do, end up networking with them and giving them a heads up, hey, this is what we call property scouts or bird dogs. Hey, if you find a property and it appears to be vacant, or you talk to someone and you find that the property is vacant, or they're needing to sell or wanting to sell, and you refer me to them or them to me, I'll pay you X amount of dollars. So That is a very key thing. I don't think a lot of people utilize that strategy enough. Like I said, at one point, I was doing a lot of riding in Ubers. And so I am a communicator, and it was never a quiet moment in any of the Ubers that I rode in. And 9 times out of 10, business was bought up. Whether I actually presented the opportunity for them to refer those properties to me or not, was here or there. But there was definitely some form of business, well, communication, but then also discussions of, business opportunities. Um, One of my favorite things to do, haven't really lately had time to do it intentionally, but it's a strategy called driving for dollars. And what you do, you set out, well, I'll tell you what I did. We would set out and just map out certain parts of town. Monday and Wednesday, we're gonna do 3 hours a day, and we're gonna drive, and we're gonna cover this area. From 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4. And what we're looking for is the exact same thing that I just mentioned. We're looking for properties that appear to be vacant, properties that appear to be maybe they're getting ready to be condemned and torn down, properties that look like they have not been maintained well, because a lot of those situations are typically telltale signs to where you can get an idea. Welcome back. So we've had some technical difficulties. We're still trying to figure out some behind the scene things. However, hopefully the two recordings will merge together well. If not, you already know what happened. So I'm determined to get these technical issues beyond us, and look forward to, ideally in the next couple weeks, very smooth and seamless videos. But in the interim, please bear with me. So I think where I left off was continuing to talk about finding motivated sellers. And I believe, because it's been a little bit of a delay, where I left off was specifically um, where you have your different, your property scouts or your bird dogs that you have, and they're going, as they're commuting on their day to day, work, to and from work, while they're working, to and from school, whatever, just to be on the lookout for these properties, these opportunities for them to make money and to refer the properties to you. And then, oh, I know where I was going with that was one of my favorite things to do, as I mentioned before, is to map out certain areas of town and take a couple days out of the week for, a chunk of time throughout the day and drive those areas, drive through the different neighborhoods, and while I'm driving, if I'm not with someone else, I try to keep a slower pace so that I can, keep an eye on sometimes both sides of the streets, and have the ability to pull over and to jot an address down. And so, same thing that I would tell the bird dogs to look out for is what I would look out for. So I'm looking for your high, um, unmaintained lawn, high grass, weeds. I'm looking for signs in the window, signs in the door. I'm looking for missing blinds. I'm looking for piled up maybe mail that you can see is in the mailbox. Just signs of, honestly, just signs of not necessarily distress, but just, indicators, I should say, that would tell me that there's something going on with that property. Which is not always 100% accurate, but it is a good key indicator. So that strategy is actually called driving for dollars. So I have a guy that I partnered with several years ago. And when he and I go out driving for dollars, I'm usually driving and he's usually um, jotting the address down. In many cases, we will get out and take pictures. Sometimes, if we know for sure that it is an absolutely vacant property. The pictures, and then sometimes we'll talk to neighbors. Um, and we've had some success in doing that. So driving for dollars, it's fun. You get to get out, like I said, you get to get out in the field. Working behind the computers is great, but it's nothing like being out there in the field doing it yourself. So that is another key thing that we do for finding off market. Another strategy that I think a lot of wholesalers and investors, I really don't want to say overlook, but I feel like a lot of people are approaching and they're targeting the seller or the owner. Whereas in many cases, go, going about the approach from more of a B2B perspective is probably a better route. So when I say B2B, I mean you as the business approaching other businesses. So when I say businesses, I mean, attorneys. And this goes back into networking. So you're building maybe networks with, building connections and networking with maybe divorce attorneys, maybe bankruptcy attorneys, maybe probate and estate attorneys, so that you can be a point of contact for them to refer their clients to in the event that they have a property, and let's say they don't want to list it, or um, need to move fairly quickly. You being someone that can move properties quickly, whether you're buying them yourself personally or whether you are actually wholesaling them, that's it's a good way to get in and get ahead of the quote competition. Excuse me. Another alternative would be like insurance agents. So, when people have a burnout, and it's a total loss, those could be opportunities, because what an insurance company deems as a total loss may not necessarily be a total loss to someone that is, an investor, and they're looking for um, properties that still could have some potential. It could be a situation where you have to tear it all the way down, but maybe the land makes it worth the while. So those are good connections to have. um, I've heard so many people, and I have, for the life of me, I don't understand. I don't really try to understand, but a lot of other investors and wholesalers are against working and dealing with other realtors and or brokers. Why? And I've heard it the other way around too. Other realtors and or brokers are against working with wholesalers. And I know there's, various reasons, but from a general perspective, that can be a great connection to have, So we've actually picked up several properties from agents. Many of them are what they call pocket listings. So they were not listed on the market, or they weren't listed on the market yet. And so essentially, those situations were a win 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 for everybody involved, because the agent, one, didn't have to list it, didn't have to do any open houses, didn't have to do, anything along those lines. So there was little work on the agent side. Really, they just connected the pieces. Hey, seller, I have a potential investor or wholesaler, whatever you want to call them, that is interested in their buying properties in the area where your property is located. So the win was for the agent, the win was for the seller or the owner, the win was for the wholesaler investor, and the win ultimately finished with the buyer. So a win 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 win. So those are really good opportunities. I'm trying to think of some other. I know there's several people. This is not a method that we have implemented really. Um, it's just not something we've done. However, I do know a lot of people make, again, going back into that B2B, they make connections with maybe your funeral home directors, maybe your retirement facility um, directors. And so in many cases, let's say if someone recently passes, the family, at some point, if there's a property at some point, I don't touch those because they can be, or we haven't, because it can be a touchy situation. And if you approach someone at the wrong time, um, it can be viewed as, you know, it can, set someone off. So I'll put it that way. You have to deal with these situations delicately. They have many cases, um, if it's in terms of recent death, they dealing with the death of a loved one. And so I think in those situations, timing is of the essence. But I do know where other people have created little like care packs, and then they went and they've made um, connection with the funeral home director or whatever the title may be, and so that when that family comes in and they're setting up the services, that packet can be handed out to them. And it starts, I believe, as a like a thank you card, or not a thank you, oh Lord, not a thank you card, but a sympathy card. And it's from there it goes into stating, this is who we are, this is what we do, in the event that there may be, you know real property attached to this individual, and you guys are, needing help with that, please give us a call. And so again, I'm kind of torn, because I see the relevancy, I see uh, the need for it. However, for me, the timing is kind of, but it's worked for people that I know. Um, Another alternative, kind of along those lines, that I've known people to do, and this is, so I'm just giving facts, right? Not necessarily everything that I believe in, everything that I do, but just facts. Because at the end of the day, if you're able to help a grieving family, you're able to help them. So it just depends on how it's perceived, received, I should say, with that the family. So I know of people that have went into the obituary section, and they have went back, 6+ months. I don't think it's anything like new, that they, in terms of looking at the recent deaths. Um, but going back and saying, okay, so and so passed 9 months ago. Let me see if there was any real property attached to so and so's name. And so they would go in, and ultimately just reach out to the next of kin. Hey, we understand that there's, properties, is what the way that I would approach it if I was to go that route. We know that there was, well, first of all, we sorry for your loss. Of course, you acknowledge and you enter those situations again delicately, explaining who you are, what you do, and maybe something along the lines of acknowledging that, um, that there is was property attached to the decedent, and maybe see if they're, if they have any interest in selling or any need in selling. So again, that's something that a lot of people probably won't touch, just because it is a very delicate situation, but it is something that theoretically can work. um, for me, I like to network, and I think that's one of the more underrated um, ways to acquire some of these off market properties. So when I say network, it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to these events and you're handing out cards or pens or whatever it is. It could be just telling your friends and your family, starting with your friends and your family, saying, "Hey, I've recently ventured into this new opportunity. This is what I'm doing. If you happen to speak to someone, or you happen to um, see a property that looks like X, Y, and Z, um, this is what I'm doing. This is how you referring that lead could help me. And of course, if those convert to close deals, you want to make sure you're compensating that person, because that's going to keep that person continuing to look out for those opportunities for you. Again, these would be your bird dogs, but it's good to let everyone know, like in your immediate circle, what it is that you're doing, so that they can kind of be on the lookout for you. So I think that's a lot. I mean, there's some other ways in terms of the off market. I'm really key on, like I said, a lot of people are approaching the sellers. And for me, anytime in life when everyone's going this direction, 9 times out of 10, I'm going the opposite direction. So, in recent instances, that's what our approach has been on the acquisition side. It's been more of the B2B. So, whether it's the agents, the attorneys, um, insurance agents, I'm trying to think what else. Sometimes your CPAs, financial advisors, could be good ways to uncover some of those leads as well, because they do have, they've got clients that need to do maybe a 1031 exchange, and so they need to get out of their property and take that money and purchase more. But you could be the person that helps them to get out of the property. And on the flip side, depending on what you have access to in terms of inventory, could be the person that helps to get them into a new property. So those could be good opportunities as well. So I think I am going to wrap up here. We went over a lot of different ways to find these off market opportunities. I hope that the information that I have given is helpful, and that for anyone that is looking to get into wholesaling is able to implement some of these strategies. Um, Really depends on your market, but I would say, because every I feel like, and it's not even I feel like, I know the majority of people, and it's not just real estate, it's not just wholesaling, so we can't single out and narrow it down to this specific avenue, but people tend to go and do what is the easiest. They don't necessarily want to do the work. We're just lazy. I flat out just say it like that. So that's why you have so many people, like I said, doing the calls and the emails and the text messages and the direct mail, because it's easy. It's easy to hop online and purchase one of these lists. It's easy to, you know, excuse me, do these SMS campaigns. People don't want to put the work in. So with the different strategies that I mentioned, it's more work, but you also have to take into account the fact that there's going to be little competition. So that is that. If anyone has any questions, definitely feel free to leave the questions or comments below. I will respond at my earliest convenience. And I really truly hope that helped someone. I thank you guys for listening, for continuing to follow and support. Um, and if you like this video, well, if you enjoyed the video, please like, share, and or subscribe. Send it to someone else that you believe this may be some help to. So, alrighty, guys, I appreciate you, and I will see you next week.